Hey guys, my name's Kelvin, and this is the Daily Hustle Podcast, a podcast where I ask my guests about their inspirational stories about how they got to where they are today. Now, today I'm here with George Kafrouni. He is the director and owner of Breakthrough Fitness, this wonderful facility that we are recording in today. And George, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
It's okay, no worries. It's been a while. I've actually wanted you on this podcast for a while, but obviously, with the whole new year and stuff coming, and I was overseas. But how was the new year for you?
Uh, it was a bit slow to start off with, obviously with the whole COVID thing. Copped COVID really badly, so I was kind of bedridden for a little while.
Yeah.
And I'm good now, just getting a roll on,
Yep.
getting to my goals and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so was it slow for the gym? Was it a slow start for the gym as well? Because I'm assuming some people have gotten COVID as well, or
Yeah, it was pretty slow. Obviously, staff members and a lot of clients did get COVID. So it was a bit slow, and everyone was sort of a bit tentative to coming back to the gym just because of the environment and stuff like that. But obviously now we're seeing a bit of a return now, so everyone's coming back.
Awesome.
Cool. Strong.
Yeah. And so I guess the goal for today is to unpack your timeline, right? I really want to get to know your story and essentially how Breakthrough Fitness came to be. It's a wonderful facility now. Behind us is a huge monolift. There are 5 of these across the gym, 10 combo racks. So there's a pretty awesome powerlifting space here. Some people say it's the best in Sydney. Some people say it's the best in Australia. And then you've got a bodybuilding section there. You've got a CrossFit and a weightlifting section there. The goal for today is to really unpack your timeline, really start from when you're young.
Yep.
And I feel like for a lot of people, a lot of successful people, I would classify you as a successful person in my eyes.
That's right.
Their childhood and their upbringing does impact a lot on the person they are today. And so I think it's really important to sort of go through that and then just sort of see how that could have impacted you to become the person you are and sort of the values that you have today. So what was your upbringing like? What was your childhood like? Your parents, were they strict? Were they really relaxed? What was that like?
Well, I came from a conservative Lebanese family, so very strict family. My dad was very strict in the sense that, we had to obviously follow certain rules and whatnot. It was one of those, it was an environment, it was a loving environment. My parents were beautiful, still are, very caring, supportive, but they did have also some principles and things like that to follow. So, growing up, it was, I was the eldest, so being the eldest, you've pretty much
expectations. Yeah.
There's also, you're obviously disciplined the most out of everyone, so you're the first child coming through. So that's the sort of environment that I grew in. It was but at the same time, I was very grateful for the fact that, I have very supportive parents. My mum and dad have, been able to raise me well.
Yeah.
They instilled a lot of core values in me that, that I'm very grateful for today.
Mm. Yeah, and so you mentioned that they were strict but also supportive. What was that balance like? Was it 50-50, or was it could you see that their sort of strictness came from a point of them caring, or what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was obviously from a point of caring. They obviously had the expectations of what was good, what was right, what was wrong. So it was mainly because of that. But it was a good balance. I guess my mum was more the the loving type.
Good cop.
Good cop. And then my dad was the bad cop.
Yeah.
Growing up, so that was sort of the environment that I grew up in. I lived here for 5 years. I was born here, but I went to Lebanon for 5 years.
All right.
So I grew up over there for some time, and obviously that culture there is a lot different to what it's here. And that was I guess played a big part in how the environment that I was in and what came about from it. So that was interesting 5 years as well. So
yeah, right. So how old were you when you were in Lebanon?
I went there when I was 5 years old. So my dad, typical Lebanese parent, person, he just pretty much wanted to retire and wanted to live on a farm. So that was his dream.
Yep.
He loved the village growing up. So he loves all his childhood memories of just being, farming the land and obviously having livestock and stuff like that. So at the age of 5, basically he took us, at my age of 5, he took us there, and we spent 5 years there. So it was.
So you just lived on a farm from 5 to 10?
Yeah. So we would during winter. So during the holidays.
Yeah.
Generally during the holidays, we'll generally go live in the village, and then during pretty much like school period, when the term started, we'd go live in Beirut. So live in the
Okay.
city, and we'd pretty much just like kind of on the weekends as well, just make sure we go back and forth.
Yep.
Because obviously when we had to go to school, basically, like we went to school in Beirut, and that was where my dad also had to work as well. So
Yeah. Okay. And so, what did your parents do, like, as a job?
my dad first in Lebanon he was pretty much he worked in real estate, which he's doing right now. So
Okay.
did a bit of that, and then he ended up working as a cook in a American university. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay,
so
cool.
it was a hospital. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. And so, in terms of your relationship with your parents, was it ever a point in time where it sort of became disjointed? Like, I don't know, did you have a rebel phase or something when you're growing up, or like, what was that like?
Yeah, everyone I guess had a rebel phase at one time or another, but mine wasn't too severe. It was like pretty much like I rebelled later on. I found myself rebelling in my teenage years, but I felt rebelled more like when I got to a bit late, like 21, 22, and I decided basically
right.
to do my thing. Obviously, growing up, Lebanese household, and obviously I consider myself intelligent, I guess. I was Dux uniform, pretty much since I was like, I don't know, since year one, and then just found myself in my high school years. I was just like, sort of just over a lot of things. I didn't really enjoy studying as much.
Right.
And then my dad always wanted me, since I was a little kid, he used to go around tell everybody my son's going to walk around with, his medical kit, and he's going to he's going to be a doctor. He's going to treat everyone around the world. That was his dream.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to tell him. So when I finished school, I just pretty much just like, I got admitted into medicine, but I didn't want to do it. So I just decided to basically do medical science to buy me some time to tell him that I didn't want to do it.
I remember you also told me that you lied to him saying that you didn't get enough marks to get into medicine school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it came to a point where like you were Dux for many, many, many years, and you
Yeah.
sort of like set that expectation, and then it came to a point where you're like, actually, fuck this. I don't do this
It's
anymore.
like year 11, year 12. Like
Yeah.
I said year 10, 11, 12. I just honestly just rebelled during that time. I actually attempted to actually fail an exam to feel what it was like to fail an exam.
Wow.
I tried to do it, I couldn't do it. I was just didn't.
Just too smart.
Just didn't enjoy it. No, I just didn't. At that time, it was just monotonous. I was obviously like, I was in accelerated learning in year 1, year 2 in Lebanon, and it was like, I obviously used to study a lot, and that was the thing I used to do a lot, but it just sort of like phased out. There was no enjoyment in it. I didn't really find, like, I wasn't working towards an end goal or anything like that, and my interest didn't line up with what obviously I was studying in like school. Like the stuff that you study in school doesn't line up with anything right
In life at all.
In life at all.
Yeah.
So I just found like it was just like monotonous. I just found myself like not putting in any effort. So like year 10, 11, 12, I just pretty much like went from like, up here to down, like not really caring. But yeah, when I eventually did medical science at uni. I finished that. I'm glad I finished that. But like doing that was hell. Like I didn't really pay attention in any of the lectures. I wasn't enthusiastic about going to tutorials at all. I spent most of my time in the UTS. Downstairs they had a bar, so I spent most of my time there. Just hanging out with friends.
So you finished your degree in medical science?
Finished my degree in medical science, and then I decided to go on to do law. And then I had an interest in like business, economics, law, legal studies, and back to school. So I thought, you know what, I'll just do law. I really enjoyed that. The first 6 months were awesome doing it, but I just decided like at that time, that's when I was starting breakthrough. So I had to kind of decide between one or the other.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So with medical science, how many years was that? 3 years?
3 years. It took me 4 years to finish, obviously, because like I wasn't paying attention. Like
Oh, so you failed subjects and then you had to redo them?
I had to redo
right,
chemistry.
okay. Yeah.
I had to redo chemistry too. I was like, like I said before, I was doing minimal effort. Like I remember my mates like studying for like ages, and the night before I would just like cram in as much as I can and just go in and just like hope for the best.
And so did your parents know that you were doing that, or?
Nah, no idea. So yeah, it's just more like, I guess like it's like if you're interested in something, you're gonna put in a lot of effort in it. If you're not really interested, you're gonna put as minimal effort as possible in that. So.
And so if you were to do it again, knowing that what you know now, what would you have done differently? Would you have done anything differently, or do you think you needed that to learn?
Look, you do need that to learn, but obviously with knowing the fact that, I didn't need to do medical science to do what I had to do, I would have not done medical science. I would have basically told my parents there and then told my dad, hey, I'm just going to do, you know, what I want to do. It
Yeah.
was just, I guess you have to go through that stuff to learn, to understand how, and to understand the importance of actually doing what you love, you know,
Yeah.
rather than what the other people around you expect you to do. So
Yeah. And so, at that time, the reason why you didn't break it to your parents, like, I don't actually want to do medicine and stuff, was it just because, like, you didn't want to let them down, or what was that like?
it was that entirely. So I didn't want to let my dad down. Obviously, I respect my dad a lot, and he's very hardworking. I've seen how much he's done for us. He's sacrificed a lot for us, and you know, so I couldn't break his heart.
Yeah.
So it was like an eventual thing. It was like a slow thing.
Yeah.
You know, and part of the reason as well, like, I can't stand blood. I'm not gonna lie to you, I can't stand needles, can't stand blood. If I feel like if something was to happen in the gym, I'm the last person you want around. just for the sake of, like, you know, I'll faint. Like, I've fainted heaps of times. Yeah, it was like, like, I remember once going to get stitches. I had to get stitches on my head because I had someone pretty much barge into me in footy, and then his tooth went straight into my head.
Oh shit!
I told my mum's hand. I was 21 years old, and I remember this doctor was like, as he was doing the stitches, looking at me like, is this guy serious? Like I was literally crying and shit.
Oh shit! Wow.
So yeah, that was part of it. That's
Yeah.
pretty much part of it. Just like, you know, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, like, I personally felt that pressure, whereas, like, I have to live up to my parents' expectations. And I'm sure a lot of people I would say, like, a lot of people from ethnic backgrounds would experience the same thing. I mean, what would your advice be to people who are facing those sort of expectations, but, you know, they're not satisfying their own needs or their own, like, you know, what they want to do?
You're gonna get one, like, shot at life, so you got to do what makes you happy, and you got to make sure that, you know, in making yourself happy, it might sort of upset a lot of people in the short term, but in the long run, you're gonna be the best version of yourself. Being the best version of yourself is gonna lead to making those people around you happy, because obviously your parents, or, you know, your friends, family, whoever it is, like, you know, girlfriend, wife, or boyfriend or husband, like, they're basically gonna obviously have the expectations of you, but they should love you and, like, wish to support you. And when they do see you happy, they're gonna realize that, you know, that's for the best, that you've made the right decision. So, like, a lot of people, obviously, when they come to make a decision, they're always thinking of the short term, you know, response, rather than looking at long term. And, like, you know, in short term, you've got to make sure that you're happy, but for the long term, what will happen, a lot of people will be happy with you.
Yeah.
And whilst obviously you're going to be the best version of yourself, so you're going to impact them in a positive way, rather than sort of, you know, being unhappy and miserable for the rest of your life. So it's good to do that.
And I think the other thing is also, like, if you constantly try to live up to not just your parents but other people's expectations, whether it's a partner or your friends, like, I feel like you're going to end up resenting them because you're like, I'm living this shitty life because of you, sort of thing. And so, like, you don't want to be resenting your parents or something when they're, you know, on their deathbed. You're like, fuck, I'm living this shitty life because like, you made me make these decisions. So yeah, I love that. I agree. So in terms of breakthrough, I know from what we've said before in previous conversations that your dad didn't want you to pursue it as much. Obviously, like, he wanted you to do medicine, and then you did law for a bit. Number one, how did the idea come to life of, like, getting into the fitness industry? And then number two, like, how is that transition between going to uni, being ducks every year in high school, to going around to the fitness industry?
I always had a passion for sports. Like, I really enjoyed fitness growing up. So, like, obviously playing lots of sports is sort of, and also one important factor, like, my mum's brother owns a gym in Lebanon, and a gym, a volleyball stadium. It's like, it's like a sort of a whole, like, sort of
Fitness center sort of thing.
Yeah. So growing up, when I grew up in Lebanon, I saw a lot of that. So I saw, we would always look forward to the summer to obviously watch the tournaments that would come up. So obviously I had that massive influence, and my uncle was the type of person, like, it was easy to talk to, you know, it was a cool uncle. So, like, for me, I was able to sort of, like, you know, see what he was doing and sort of relate to that, and it kind of spurred me a little bit in a way. And my mum as well was very, grew up being very athletic. So she, obviously being in that environment, played a lot of sports as well. So when I was 18, I was, like, pretty much pushed to go to the gym. And but that was because of the fact that I was working at Domino's before that, and after every shift I was pretty much just like, I would, like, stay back for half an hour to help my manager, and my manager would be like, okay, you can help me for another half an hour, finish the dough, roll the dough out and stuff like that. I'll give you a free pizza or whatever pizza left over, you can have it. And I was like 17 or 8, I think it was 16, 17, 18.
Food.
Yeah, free food, awesome stuff. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I would always order something extra for the family, but I would eat those other 2 pizzas or like the other pizza on my own, full pizza on my own. I was waiting for my parents to pick me up, and then I'll just pretty much go from there. So I was packing on some kgs, so my mum noticed that, so she pretty much just told me, you know, you should join the local gym, and it used to be Coolabah, just around the corner from here. So I just joined up from there, and I found that I just sort of got addicted to kind of, I guess, like the feeling of just you know, accomplishing things, whether it was, you know, pushing some bit of extra weight, or, you know, just like running a little bit faster, or like finishing a circuit better than usual. And it sort of helped me through a lot of situations during that time, like growing up, and also gave me that bit of confidence. I'd go to a party, for example, and I'm like, wow, George works out. And back then, I feel like it wasn't as prevalent. Like there wasn't a lot of people that were doing it as per se as today. I feel like today, which is a good thing, we have a lot of people obviously training and doing all that. So that was that. And then I found myself like obviously training a lot of people. So it's just a lot of friends, giving them a lot of tips on what to do. And then it just pretty much led from there. It's like it was one of those things where it was just like, it was a hobby of mine. It was my outlet. And then it just sort of started sort of coming about, and I saw myself in a park with a few people, like a few friends, training them, giving a boot camp session, and then it just sort of happened. And I guess it all happened when I started working out fitness first. So I was working out reception, and then it sort of came about from there. And the idea of Breakthrough came from there. It was actually my first business, my first group personal training business wasn't called Breakthrough either.
Okay. What was it called?
It's Personal Group Fitness.
It's personal?
Yeah. It was like black and yellow colours as well. So it wasn't red and black and white behind us. So yeah, it just sort of started off with that, and then I approached one of the PTs, and one of the PTs there, I told him, you know, what if we start our own group fitness business? And then we're like, okay, let's go, let's do it. So yeah, it was like, looking back at it as well, like it was just like pretty much like,
it was just so natural from what I can see. Like that progression was just like, you went to the gym, you loved it, people started to come to you to get trained, and then it just like one thing led to another. Yeah.
That's just pretty much what happened. And then I found myself like, again, like, you know, obviously I wasn't, with medical science, I wasn't interested in it at all, so I put minimal effort in it. But then I found when we came to like, you know, obviously training people and things like that, I'd sit back and research as much as possible.
Right.
I didn't have a car back then, I didn't have any mode of transport. So I'd pretty much like have 2 bags of like dumbbells and whatnot, like probably weighing about, you know, 40 kilos each.
Shit. Yeah.
And I would like pretty much walk to my bus stop, which usually takes 5 minutes. It used to take me 20 minutes. I'd be drenched in sweat.
Oh, wow.
Then I'd catch a bus to the park,
wait
there for my clients to come in, and then pretty much just like catch the bus back home. I did that for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so until I was able to save some money to buy a car.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's an incredible story. And like, despite that sort of like, I'd say it was a tough situation. Like you didn't make it easy for yourself, where like you had to catch the bus to go. Like someone could have easily just said like, screw this, whatever, it's too hard. What kept you going during that time? Like what made you walk those 20 minutes with 40 kilos in each hand to catch the bus, to go see your clients, and then catch the bus back and walk home?
Honestly, it was the end goal. I always saw myself, you know, I wanted to always own a facility like this. I always saw myself doing so. And I knew I could. It was more I always was, rather than focusing in the moment as per se, I was literally just like kind of like always looking at the end goal. And a lot of it had to do with the fact as well that I really enjoyed it. You know, like you could have an amazing end goal, but if you don't enjoy what you do, I don't think you're going to be able to actually achieve it, because you need to enjoy what you do. I enjoyed like the company of people. I wasn't pretty social back then, but obviously with time became more social. I was pretty much an introvert most of the time, and then it just also seeing the transformations in people's life. I guess that kept me sort of going as well, like the impact that you had on people. Like I went in there with obviously the intention of like helping people, but I didn't think I was going to have that much of an impact. And then when I did, it made me feel important as per se. It was like, okay, you know, I'm changing this person's life. I've changed this person. They've dropped 30, 40 kilos during that time. and they're much more like, social. She found, the girl would have found a boyfriend and settled, and like she's happier because of that.
Yeah,
she's
for
not
sure.
insecure anymore.
Yeah.
Little things like that made me sort of want to keep going, want to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And it was, I guess, having little wins along the way as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
I absolutely sort of connect with that, the whole thing about like being able to impact people's lives. Like when I first started as a personal trainer, I just thought, look, I just want to help people. I just want to, for example, help people get to their fitness goals and whatnot. And then it came to a point where people were saying like, you've changed my life. Like meeting you like was a switch in my life that changed everything. And getting those messages is just like, wow,
It's
like
surreal,
that's
yeah.
the impact that I have on people's lives. You actually changed their life.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, oh yeah, you helped me get to like X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And that feeling, man, is insane. It does keep you going. It's
does,
like I can't think of anything remotely close to a job or occupation where like people just say straight to your face like, you've changed my life. Unless you can, like the jobs.
Obviously, there's a few other jobs like that, but like you can't, like in that instance, like having that holistic sort of impact on someone.
Yeah.
You're having a physiological impact on that person. You're having psychological impact on that person.
Yeah.
You see them change on many levels. You see, like I've known people, like I've had clients that were complete like outcasts. Were doing things that completely wrong. Were going down the path of doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and they were able to change their lives basically based on having a bit of routine. I think that's the beauty of physical training, like being able to train and like exert yourself on a daily basis and have some sort of routine where it gives you that release of endorphins or gives you that sense of accomplishment is so important. We neglect it in today's society. Like we don't get that many, we don't get a lot of people pushing that as much. I've noticed as soon as people have that sort of routine, especially because like in your case, like, you're a very caring individual. And so we are able to sort of show them that care and love that might be missing in their lives.
Yeah.
And they notice that. And they notice that, hey, Kelvin really cares about me. He's here not just to, obviously trying to make a living, but at the same time, you're giving them something that's, that's beneficial. You're not giving them ice cream, for example, so they can literally just have that, 3 minutes of like enjoyment, and then like, it has its like sort of, negatives from there. But it's you're giving them something that's going to give them long-term benefits.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
it's like surreal.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
do. I love getting messages on whenever it is, whenever they do come through, and they do come through, at times as well when I feel so demotivated, and I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm appreciative that I have that impact on that person's life.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important. I can't think of too many jobs that have that sort of
I'd say like a doctor, but
Yeah.
like they change people's lives,
Exactly, they
obviously.
do, yeah.
But like
we can't
I
say
think-
anything bad about them in case kids have surgery one day and then they can save us. Yeah.
But I think the other thing is also just the barrier to entry as well.
Yeah.
For a trainer, like it's very low barrier to entry, and obviously like they have their pros and cons. But like the pro is that like you can make such an impact on people's lives without really needing to, like for medicine to become a doctor, you've got to study for like 8-10 years.
Yeah.
Whereas with the personal training course, that's like 12 months, and then you can start working and just start making an impact on people's lives. And I think that's really rewarding. But back to the whole thing with Breakthrough.
Yeah.
So you started as it's personal training.
Yeah, so it's personal group fitness. Yeah.
Okay, it's personal group fitness, and so that was group fitness classes in a park.
Yeah, so we
close by.
decided we just wanted to do, instead of doing it as a boot camp, I wanted basically to offer group personal training and obviously personal training in a group environment.
Okay.
It was like, we started off doing that.
Yep.
And then,
And then what sort of led it towards Breakthrough Fitness?
Yeah, so I just, with my old business partner, I found, obviously I was getting into it. I was obviously putting a lot more work than he was. He had his PT clients at Fitness First. Obviously his intentions were a little bit different. They had good intentions, but I just didn't see myself, sort of working really well with him. So I just pretty much just told him I just want to go branch out on my own, and I did from there, and the clients went with me from there. And so generally what happened after that was that I had one of my close school friends starting his PT course at the time. He had just finished, after finishing it, he approached me and asked me if he can basically, go into business with me. And so we decided to basically do that together. And then I remember we all met up one day. close group of friends of mine, and we're trying to come up with a name
Yeah.
for the next business. And I was
Yeah.
like, whatever, choose whatever name it was. And at the time, Mona was like one of my schoolmates as well. She basically came up with the name Breakthrough Fitness.
Right.
And then so just we went from there. We had a really close relationship. Alex and I, my old business partner, we were, good mates obviously from school. But then it led to he started working at was Virgin Active, and he found himself not putting in as much effort as he wanted to.
Yep.
Only because he was getting busy. And so rather than sort of seeing us deteriorate, have a relationship, our friendship deteriorate, he pretty much just said, you know what, it's probably better, you just buy me out and then you can continue on your own.
Yep.
So that was the next phase of Breakthrough, where pretty much I just sort of went out on my own and started doing it. And that time I had a car, I had a Toyota Avalon. It's a green Toyota Avalon.
Nice.
I used to get pulled over all the time, only because basically I had so much weight in the car that it was always low.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
So, and then sort of just went from there. I decided just to basically have to go out and just do that on my own.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I went out on my own.
Yeah. So the whole thing with the two business partners then, I mean, what were the learnings that you got from that? Do you think that, for me personally, I find that getting into business with friends can be quite difficult, because there's that whole friendship versus business partner, and it's really hard to sort of distinguish. And then for example, when you have conflict, if either of you aren't mature enough to put aside that friendship and just think about this very logically and in a business sense, then shit can go down. So what were the learnings that you sort of saw from
I was grateful for the fact that both those business partners obviously didn't have any conflict after that, after those incidents. I see them now, I'd say hi to them. When I do see them in public, it's fine, it's all good. But being in business with a partner, it's really hard in the sense that if you don't if your work ethic, your values, where you see the company going, a lot of those things don't line up. It's going to be pretty hard. And I think communication is key. So I learned in that case that basically, that I need to communicate better. If I was to have a business partner, which I did after that, which I'll get onto. So you need to be able to communicate things a lot better. And I found that, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like in certain things, I believe partnerships really work really, really well. If you're developing, or if you're going through, doing some certain jobs that require a lot of effort, and it's going to be sort of beneficial for the both of you. We're going to make, both going to make substantial amounts of money, and you're dealing with, certain things. I think it's important to have a partner, especially if their values line up, their work ethic and the vision for the business lines up. But in certain cases where you can actually, in my case, I think I was just a bit hesitant on doing it on my own because I wasn't confident in myself.
Right.
So what I found then there is to I needed to be more confident in myself. I had the skills to back it up. It was just a matter of just believing in myself a little bit more.
So you think you could have done it by yourself?
Could have done it by myself.
Right.
I had all the skills to do that. I still look back at things that I used to do, things I came up with, for it to come from, from the park to moving to obviously to this.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had the skill set and that was needed to do this, to do this in 10 years is pretty good. And, I've finally recognized that, whereas before I was pretty much hard on myself. And by being hard on myself, I wasn't really confident in myself doing things. And I think that's a flaw that I was able to overcome and recognize. And I'm glad I went through that period with my, with those two business partners, because I was able to recognize that and be like, okay, you need to do this on your own. Be confident in what you do, because you're good at what you do.
Do you think that sort of being hard on yourself, resulting in not being as confident in your own abilities, do you think that came from your upbringing, with your parents having high expectations of yourself and you not meeting it?
Yeah, it came from that. It came from the fact that my dad was very strict. And it does have an impact in that sense, but I was able to kind of recognize that later on down the track. I was only able to recognize that properly just recently, and then it just came about from just obviously understanding why we do certain things. I think as human beings, we all do certain things based on our behaviors and our upbringing, and understanding that and understanding what drives our subconscious to do stuff is very important. But I always had those, in saying that as well, to be fair, I always had high expectations of myself. I've always been the type of person to kind of place those expectations on myself, not just because of how strict my parents are. I still, but moments, for me, it's always be the best. You got to
Yeah.
become first in your class. You got to,
Yeah.
be the best in this team. You got to, have the best gym, or you got to be the best personal trainer. You got to be the best coach. You got to be the best, like, whatever it is. It's just like, it's just like almost like I have a chip on my shoulder. I need to keep doing that. So I can't say it's entirely, just because of the fact that my parents disciplined me a lot.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's got to do with my personality as well.
Yeah, and I think that trait, like, I personally relate to that trait quite a lot, where, like, for example, in powerlifting, in this sport, like, I want to be the best in my weight class. I want to, become the best trainer that I can be. I want to be the best coach that I can be. And that's all well and good. Like, it's awesome to want to strive to be the best. But I think it's also being able to manage expectations and go, hey, look, like, realistically, maybe we can't get there, but maybe we can achieve something else. Or like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, having high expectations of yourself, but then, like, maybe it's not realistic for you to meet them. Like, how do you sort of manage that?
I think in that instance, you basically got to make sure that you're being very grateful, I guess, for where you're at.
Right.
Being grateful. Yes. Hey, you know what? I'm going to try my best to be the best powerlifter in your case. You want to be the best powerlifter in your weight class. I'm going to try that, but I'm going to be grateful for the fact that I can actually lift that weight that most people can't do, you know? If we really look at it and we had to kind of measure you against every single person out there, every male person that's living right now, you'd be like in the top tier, right now. Because obviously most people don't even do it, or even the people that do it aren't as strong as you are.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like being grateful in the moment for the things around you, but still having the expectations. Because you know what, having those expectations aren't a bad thing. It's led to a lot of people doing some great things. Like, you wouldn't have gone to the moon, for example. If you didn't have those expectations. Like, you wouldn't have the Michael Jordans and Muhammad Ali's and stuff like that. If Muhammad Ali wasn't saying out loud, like, he was the greatest, he's the best.
Yeah.
And that we wouldn't have had that boxer.
100%.
So I guess it's important to understand that you are basically going to go out there and do your best, because you should go out there and do your best. Like, if you're going to be contribute somewhat to society, which everyone should, you need to go out there on a daily basis and do your best, but also be grateful for being able to do so, and for wherever opportunity you might have. Who knows, you might try to be the best powerlifter, but you might end up being the best coach, or you might end up, having the best podcast. Or, it just depends what life's going to throw at you. But it's just going out there with the intention of doing your best.
Yeah,
I think that's the most important thing.
And I think the thing is with training as well, I touched on this briefly with Beth in our podcast last year, is that, like, training is a privilege. Training isn't a right. Like, you're not given the right to train. Like, being able to use even these facilities is a privilege, to be using calibrated plates when you train. There are people across the world who are using, like, concrete weights to train. And I've seen, videos of people in, like, Africa, for example, who are strong as heck, using, concrete weights and stuff to get to where they want to be, because they want it. They really, really want it. And I think that trait's really, really valuable. Yeah.
Sure. And, like, there's no harm in actually trying to be the best. Like, even if you fall short, like, how I see it is, like, you just gotta keep pushing through. Like, in the case, like I look at this facility, like, I look around now, like, I do, like, I look in awe. I'm like, okay, wow. Like, if I was to manage my expectations back then, I wouldn't have been able to get to this. Because if I had to actually tell you, like, I remember when I first opened up this facility, opening it up, even before that, even when I was, like, back in the park, I used to think that I had that expectation in my head that, hey, I'm going to be the best.
Yeah.
And even if I fall short now, looking at this, I'm like, okay, wow, this is going to give an opportunity to someone else to be the best. So, like, someone else might come here and train really hard. We might have someone that might, become the best version of themselves, or even have, become the best in any, whatever sport it is or whatnot. Yeah. And that's like, if I was to kind of, like, diminish that and, like, get rid of that thought of trying to be the best and managing my expectations back then, I wouldn't have been able to get to this.
Yeah, right.
And it's sort of, even when I used to, like, run the park sessions, I used to walk around thinking, like, I was the bee's knees, and, like, looking at everyone train, I'm like, yeah, this is so good. It wasn't. It wasn't as good as I thought it was. Yeah. Even looking at when we first set up this gym, I used to walk in here thinking, like, wow, what a center. Yeah. And now I'm ashamed, like, not ashamed of it, but, like, I look at it and I'm like, it wasn't anywhere near what it is now.
Yeah.
And now, like, I can confidently say that, it is one of the best, like, training facilities in Sydney. And I guess if I didn't have those expectations,
Yep.
and if I didn't drive towards those expectations,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have led to this. And I can see how much it impacts a lot of people here. So like, I'm glad I sort of didn't manage those expectations. I'm glad that I was just like,
Just
hard-headed
full
about
send.
it. Yeah, just full send. So sometimes you need to. I
Yeah.
think in life, sometimes you need to be very sure about yourself, because
Yeah.
like no one's going to back you as much as you are going to back yourself. If you can't back yourself, you're not going to be able to do anything. Like,
Yeah.
it's just got to have that. I had heaps of people laugh at me. Like, I
Right.
still had lots of friends laugh, and one of them admitted to me. She told me, like, when you were 22 and you told us that basically you were going to do this. I even got my friend to draw some images of this place
Yep.
for me. He's
Yeah.
an architect. Like, when I was 23, I got him to do some, and I pretty much and like when I told all of them about it, I still remember like everyone was like, yeah, no worries, awesome, good stuff, and like I know they were laughing,
Yeah.
but I didn't really care.
Yeah,
like, I
right.
just was like that. Hey, I'm gonna show you guys. Most importantly, I was gonna show myself that I could do it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think when it comes to the point where you know that you have the passion for it, you know that like you love what you're doing, you enjoy what you're doing, there's no reason why you shouldn't commit everything to it, like commit 110% to it, because like even if you don't get to where you want to be, you're loving what you do.
Exactly.
That's all you want, right? That's all you want in life.
Most
So,
important thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So let's bring it back to like after the park. So you're in the park for how long?
I was in the park for 5 years.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't like that. I didn't think it was that long. I thought it was like,
it was 5
2
years. Like literally, like looking back at it as well, it was like pretty much, it was just one thing on the other. Like I kind of, again, I stuffed up badly. I stuffed up in the sense that at one time I was charging like, 35, I think it was like $39.95 a week for
Yep.
boot camp sessions. And
Yeah.
that was the going rate at the time. I got scared because of winter. Winter was coming around. So I decided to drop my prices down.
Right.
I dropped them down really low.
Okay.
And I found myself playing catch up after that. So I was always like trying to increase my prices slowly.
Yeah, right.
So what it would have taken me a shorter period of time to get to where I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
It was a bad business decision because obviously I was scared. I just found myself basically, doing that. But it was in the sense like I had to basically go through all that to kind of get to the final product. And then
Yep.
being in the going from the park to the gym, I went to a small gym first to start off with. I was 4 years in the park, and then it was a year in that gym.
So it was like a small studio?
Yeah, it was like a small like little warehouse. When I rented it out at the time, like pretty much I was trying to go through DA approval to get a DA approved. Like
Yep.
it was just like, you know what? It was like, yeah, again, that was like the size of the front reception.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it had like a back sort of like an outdoor area
Yep.
in the back, and we
Yeah.
used to train in there as well.
Yeah.
I kitted with like a few pieces of equipment, like it was all like just generic equipment, like it wasn't the best of equipment back then, but just went from there, and it was my little baby. Like I spent like I remember working from there from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. every
Wow.
day.
Yeah.
Trying to basically run, like we used to run like little small group PT sessions between our classes. So if you basically couldn't make it at 6 a.m. class, you'd come at 7 a.m. between 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and I'll set you up with 3 others or 2 others or whatever. You can continue training. It was that type of sort of
Right.
concept I was going for. Again, it was just trial and error. Like looking at it now, I was like, okay, I wouldn't have necessarily done that.
Yep. Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah, that was that next step, and that was basically for a year.
And that was by yourself, or?
Yeah, that was by myself. So before that, in the park, I was in business. So again, I had another business partner, and I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time. That was like a couple of years duration of our relationship.
Yep.
After basically buying her out, I decided to go and try to open up something small.
Yep.
To start from there, go on to the next step.
Cool. And so after that studio, you were at the studio for a year?
Yep.
Yep. And then after that was to here?
Yeah. So I had a bit of a falling out with the landlord at the time. He was wanting me to move into his next building, and I didn't want to. Like it was bigger space, but it was a lot of rent. So I just started looking around. I was desperate to find a place, and I remember like just driving everywhere for like a couple of months to find something. And then once I just drove on this road, I drove here, and I remember I think I was going to get some bread for my mum or something like that. I just can't remember what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I saw the sign, so I just pretty much like took a photo of it, sent it to my dad. My dad's in real estate, so just to ask him if he knew who the person was. I contacted the person, went from there, and then just it was. We were trying to set up. As we were trying to set up this was like, it was hell.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah, it was hell. obviously not understanding. Like a lot of work goes into setting up a gym. Like most gym owners can relate to this. Like you got to get DA approval. Like there's a square meter rule in terms of like and cast. You got to have some sort of car spots. You've got to have public transport, access to public transport. There's a lot of things that go into planning it. I thought it was easy, so I just pretty much just went to get DA approval. So I went to the town planner at Parramatta Council, and I asked him at the time if it's okay for it to go through. Like, would it be okay if I just put the DA through? Because it was easy. You should be able to just go just submit your architectural plans and it'll go through easily because it's like zoned for that. I'm like, awesome, this is good. So we did that because we went with the intention with the landlord, because the landlord didn't want to give it to me at first, but he said he'll give it to me if I just basically secure the deal today based on the fact with no pre-DA. Usually when you go into a place, you go with a pre-DA approval sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on the condition of DA approval, so I was like, okay, I'm going to get it no matter what. So yeah, got it. Then 6 weeks later, I got a letter from council pretty much saying, no, it hasn't been approved. And it was yeah, it was hell after that. I was pretty much had the place for a whole year. I was paying rent for it.
So you signed the contract and everything?
Yeah, I was paying rent for it. It was like, at the time it was like, it was $84,000.
Wow.
$84,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I was still in the park. I was renovating here slowly.
Yep.
And trying to find the money to do everything at the time.
Yeah.
And then, and having to pay that $84K as well, for the year.
Yep.
So that was hard.
So you had this whole space. I mean, how many square meters is it? Is this space?
It's 1,200 square meters.
1,200 square meters.
1,200.
And like you couldn't use it at all for anything?
Couldn't use it at all. I would when it rained at the park, I'll tell people to come in here, but it was dusty as anything. So you come in here and it was just people didn't want to be in this space. Like it wasn't the way it is now at all. Like it was like those rooms on rooms on rooms. So we pretty much knocked everything down, made it into an open space and went from there. But it was hell for a whole year. And I was like, some of the stuff that sort of happened along the way was like, like sort of, although looking back at it, anyone would have been discouraged and been like, all right, fine, leave it. Yeah. I sort of just stuck, pretty much just stayed by it. And
what made you push through it? Like, it was obviously a very tough situation. Like, you're paying $84,000 in rent, you're at a park, you had to pay to renovate this whole space. Like, what kept you going?
At the same time, I was actually renting another space. So we're renting a space. It was bad. We're renting a space in Australian top team. Yeah. So at the time, when I was in Wenny, I came across one of the guys who owns F45 Merrylands, Simon Alami, and he had one of his apprentices. He was becoming an MMA fighter. Yep. And he brought him in for a session, trained, and then I got to meet Suman and Ash, and then I was lucky enough, obviously, to train them in their prep for like Rebel. It was a fight in China. And then basically, we went from there. So we was training them like on a daily basis in the morning at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. Just before the classes started. I'd train them there, and pretty much I just got into conversation with them, and I pretty much got to like rent out a little space in their gym. I was able to put like all the equipment there. Okay. So I was paying $700 there a week. Yep. I was paying like $84K.
And that's just to store your equipment.
I just had my equipment. I was doing the whole gym thing, so you could go. So I gave the option to my clients because a lot of clients were really uncomfortable going into like MMA gym to train. Yep. So I had a lot of females at the time, so we still had park sessions. Yep. So at the time I had park sessions going on. Yep. Had sessions or like one of us manning the MMA gym. Yep. And then pretty much renovating here as well at the same time. So I was like $700 plus $84K a year here. Yeah. It was like wow. Yeah, it was like.
And so at that time, were you still by yourself, or did you?
Yeah, I was on my own. I had an agreement with one of the coaches. Coaches in regards to profit share. Yep. So we just basically, and I paid him a wage. So I paid him a wage, and for the clients that he brought in, he pretty much got half of that. So, but yeah, I was on my own. Like at the time, like I was doing everything on my own, trying to get the business up. At the same time, I was trying to source the equipment from China. Yep. Honestly, I don't know what made me when I look back at it, I didn't make a lot of smart decisions along the way. I'll admit that. I was the first to admit that, but at the same time, it led to this end product. Yep. And I learned from all the stuff. Like I know now how to basically run the business back to front. I'll tell you exactly what you need to do, how to start it, what all the mistakes and whatnot. But then I don't know. I still don't know what made me continue. Like I don't. At no point, I did get my doubts, and would sit here for a while at times and be like, okay, I gotta like stop. Yeah. I want to just like give up. Yeah. Like, as everyone does. Like, I'm sure that everyone ever sort of did anything, but in saying that, like it wasn't like 99% of the time, I just kept going. I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
wow.
keep going. And I was always able to look at the end product, I guess. I was always excited about the end thing. So
Yeah, awesome. Cool. So basically you went from, park to studio to basically a shit show for that year. And so how did you get through it? Like, what was the next step? Like, how did you end up being able to build this sort of facility?
So basically from there, I went to China.
Yep. Oh, so you traveled to China to
Yeah,
get
traveled to
equipment.
China. So
Oh,
one of my
wow.
dad's mates was exporting. So my dad put me on to him.
Yep.
And then we decided to go to China. So I went to China. That was an experience.
Yeah.
It was a good
Did you enjoy
experience. Yeah. Like, it was good. It was nice. Like, I didn't get like the whole sightseeing stuff. I went to where was it? Wow. I'll get back to you.
Shanghai, Beijing. Yeah.
It's a place where everyone goes for they usually have the trade shows and stuff like that, and they
Ah,
I
okay.
remember
I have no
where,
idea.
but
Yeah.
went there. Long story short, I remember I went to a few factories. The guy that I went with had no idea about gym equipment, so that was
okay.
the first mistake.
Yeah.
Second mistake, I went basically to all these factories, and I was only spending a limited time there. I was only spending like 5 days there, so I didn't get the chance to actually inspect the equipment as well as I should, or even look into the record of production and stuff like that. So I remember just going to a few of them. The person I ended up choosing, I chose because basically the equipment looked the same as everybody else. It looked good. And they took me out to lunch. It was like, and it was like good Chinese.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right, awesome. We did that, built a good relationship from there. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I can see these guys, they're genuine. Not only that, I can see their equipment was the same as the next factory.
Yeah.
Pretty much like all literally the same.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much like all copying like Life Fitness equipment. That's what it was. It's a mimic of
okay.
like all Life Fitness equipment
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's like, okay, awesome. I was like, I thought I was cheering. I was going to spend gym equipment's expensive. I thought I was going to kit out this whole gym with like 150K
Yeah.
worth of equipment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's not too bad at all.
Yeah.
So I had this concept drawn, did everything, sourced the equipment from there. And the reality of it when it came in was it was nothing like what I expected. So the equipment was like trash, pretty
Wow.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like our bumper plates used to bend.
Oh, shit.
The bumpers used to bend. Even like the cables used to snap. Like
Wow.
it was just flimsy equipment. I think the only good thing about all the equipment that we had was the platforms at the time.
Okay.
Obviously synthetic grass. We had obviously synthetic grass, but that was an experience.
a big mistake.
Big mistake. I should have just pretty much used that as capital and the money as capital that I'd saved up, and just pretty much used it as just to pay the fine, to lease the equipment,
Yep.
rather than just sort of just sourcing equipment and then wasting that money, which I could have just used as capital. But it was all a learning experience as well. So
Yeah.
that was another mistake. That set me back another 3 years or so.
Yeah, right. So that set you back 3 years.
Yeah, it did. Like, what happened, when we first opened up, we had influx of clients coming in. It was like the new thing. Okay, awesome, Breakthrough Fitness, let's go check it out. A lot of people sign up. And then when the expectations of the place doesn't meet, the expectation, like when the place doesn't meet the expectations of the clients, it just drops off over time. And I found as well the equipment, a lot of the feedback that we got, awesome facility in the sense good community vibes, good vibes overall, but your equipment isn't that good. And I was like, okay, then you have to kind of build yourself up from there.
Yep.
And also you have those costs. You have, you have to pay rent. You have to pay your wages. And when that comes into play, it's a lot of money. And you obviously have to deal with all that. And then you have to be able to kind of get yourself back on track so you can be able to kind of refurbish or do what you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And so, you had a big influx of clients, you had a big influx of new members, and then they all just sort of dropped off because things were just breaking.
Yeah. And then, I had 5-6 treadmills.
Yep.
At the end of it, all my treadmills were outside.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just a lot of wastage looking back at it. And it's not like you can call someone to service it. I called someone to service it, I had no idea, we don't know.
Yeah, right. So it's not like Life Fitness where someone comes through and they know the machine.
Exactly. It's the equipment that's just been put together in China. So
yeah.
Not saying anything bad about it. Most of the equipment does get, sourced from there. But it's just having those people that have sourced the equipment have had years on years of experience sourcing that equipment. So all the equipment that they're going to get is, reliable.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And so that set you back 3 years. So you had to wait 3 years just to build capital back up again so you could buy new equipment.
Yeah. So I started. So we had a little we tried doing a whole kickboxing thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So one of my friends at the time, basically was looking for some extra work.
Yep.
And looking to be sponsored as well. So he was from Netherlands, so I wanted to get sponsored. So we worked out. used to be there in where the weightlifting area is
Yeah.
right now, and he used to go across that way for the CrossFit area.
Yeah.
And we tried that out. We literally then bought the rack that's over there. That was the next step, and we kind of had a massive rack all the way down. We also bought another. We got rid of the racks in the back, and we bought another rack this way, which was against this wall.
Yeah.
We tried every point or every little step
Reiteration.
back. I was like, okay, let's try this. Let's try that. Let's try this. Let's do this. It's just like, we knew, at the time I knew that it wasn't working. So I had to kind of find a way to make it work. And it was based on the fact of what was happening or what was going really good. Rather than sitting back and saying, okay, stop for a second.
Yeah.
Let's try to get it perfect.
Yeah. So it was always just like, okay, let's try this now. And they're like, oh, that works. Let's keep that. And let's add something else. And it was sort of like building blocks to get to where you want to be. Yeah, awesome. So it wasn't really a point where it was like, all right, sit down, wipe everything out, bring everything back in. Yeah, right. Yeah. Because I remember when I first came, that would have been June last year or just before June last year, before the lockdown. And this place was right in the middle of renovations, right before you got the motors and stuff like that. And so personally when I walked in, I was like, this place is a bit of a mess. I was like, this place is a bit messy, but I'm like, all right, I'll just Beth was saying really awesome stuff about we've got all this new equipment coming in. You've got 10 combo racks coming in. And I was like, I'll just stick around and see what happens. And so I'm really glad I did stay. Yeah, so awesome. And then, we're in this space now. I think after this, after the podcast, I'm going to just have a quick pan around the camera so that people can see when I upload this. But yeah, how did you get to 10 combo racks, 5 monoliths, all these platforms and
stuff like that. So it was I think it was this, not last year, but the year before. And that's when Beth was working. And Beth came on. And I was, obviously I started getting into powerlifting. So I was doing it more as I've never competed or anything like that, but I was doing it more sort of it gave me sort of that mental edge, I guess, to kind of see things in step by step, incrementally going up every week in your weight. Goes a long way in sort of seeing, okay, I progressed this far. And then when Beth came on board, I saw some positive changes in people doing that as well.
Okay.
And then I remember at the time, I walked over to Beth and I told her, and I go to her, and I still remember some of the people's sort of expressions when I said to them, yep, we're gonna have this space.
Yep.
We're gonna have this many combos. I remember getting the bill from Goliath and sending it over to Beth, and she's saw the bill and she's wow, so you're gonna be spending that much money, you have that much faith in the fact in me, and you have that much faith in the fact that this is what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So I remember when we did that, it was sort of the stepping stone to okay, all right, let's do it. And then
how did you convince Beth to come over to here? Because at that time you didn't have that much of a powerlifting space.
No, we didn't. Right? And you know what's funny about it? Even looking at our first comp, we didn't have a powerlifting space. And even when we went out and said, okay, we're going to run, breakthrough battlegrounds and invite only, we didn't have a powerlifting space.
Yeah, right.
And it was it was just again, it's just sort of setting the standard where you want to be, and then working towards it.
Yeah.
Convincing Beth was, I don't know, I remember being told by Daniel Vong. He pretty much told me about that. Beth was looking for work, and he told me some good stuff about her.
Yep.
And I trust Daniel. Dan Vong, he's he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
I used to work here. I have a lot of respect for him. So when he does recommend people to me, I pretty much go with it. Just spoke to her. We got along really well. She's very respectful.
Yeah.
I think she admired the fact that I was like that as well, and caring and whatnot. And so she saw potential in this space.
Yeah.
And just I was able to kind of sell it to her, but I guess that's a conversation we need to have with her and ask her why she came on board.
Yeah. I think she mentioned it in our podcast, the podcast that I had with her. She did talk about her side of the story, about how she went from where she was working before to here. So if you want to check that out, go check out the podcast with Beth. Yeah, so it's awesome. So then you brought Beth along. You basically I guess you sold your vision to her, and to other people in this sort of community or this space. I'm assuming you had a lot of setbacks, or not setbacks, but a lot of resistance.
Yeah, did obviously, for sure. You're gonna get a lot of people always sort of obviously saying that you can't have this many, monoliths, for example. I think the other week, a funny thing about it all, every piece of equipment here was getting used. All the monoliths were getting used. I think that
was Monday night, right?
Yeah, and they were all getting used. And I was awesome. I wish I could take a photo of it right now and just be okay, post it up or whatnot. But then looking back at it, it's like, you know, like you got it. I realized over time, and this has been a journey of 10 years. At first, I was always asking everyone, so every Tom, Dick, and Harry, about their opinion on things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I realized over time is stop asking people or stop involving people. Only ask specialists.
Right.
So if you want business advice, go see a business consultant. You know, don't go and speak to like, you know,
This
some
memo
person-
that just walked into
yeah,
the
yeah,
gym.
just walked in. Oh, you should try doing this. Like
Yeah.
everyone used to give their feedback. Every person.
You're about to drop F-bomb.
Yeah. Every person used to give me feedback in regards to what I should do with my business.
Yeah.
And they used to irritate me a lot. One, obviously they didn't know what was going on, like what was happening behind the scenes. They don't understand the whole picture of things. I don't know how much money's coming into the account.
I was going to say as well, I don't think a lot of people understand how much money goes out when you run a gym. Like, people just think, oh, people pay you membership and, like, you're fine.
Yeah,
It doesn't work like that.
Like, I think everyone thinks I'm like a millionaire right now. It's like, yeah, George's mate, nah, it's not like that at all. Like, you're paying so many bills, but it's not for that. If you really wanted to, like, go out there and, like, honestly, like, make a lot of money, like, I even had a chat with, like, Sebastian once about it, and it's funny, like, if you want to make money, you don't own a gym. Like, you can't. Owning a gym isn't going to make you a lot of money. It's just, I just enjoy this. I enjoy this space. Like, I enjoy the place. I enjoy seeing people happy. I enjoy all that stuff. That's the reason why. You can still make money off it. I'm not saying you can't. You can also obviously make money. You can make ends meet. But it's about, like, obviously, like, sort of understanding that if you really want to make some serious money, you need to be able to, like, use this money to invest in other things to make serious money.
Correct.
And you do this just for, like, the fact that you know for a fact you have a space with like-minded people, and everyone's sort of like, you know, everyone's nice. Everyone's sort of, you know, achieving things together, which we spoke about earlier. It's a surreal feeling. So.
Yeah. So this build now that we're in this whole powerlifting space, I remember the whole renos and stuff. It was crazy. Like, we laid this concrete down. I'm pretty sure my name's on one of these slabs of concrete. Are you willing to discuss, like, how much this build costs? Or?
Yeah, it's like, so honestly, with all the mistakes and everything in general, let's say, minus the mistakes, I reckon the CrossFit area fit out just there is about 70K.
Yep.
About 70K.
Yep.
About 30 to 40K at reception. The powerlifting area is about like, it's like $140,000 or $150,000.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not too bad, I guess. Then you've got...
Not too bad, I guess.
It's not that bad. Then you've got the back area. The back area itself is about $350,000.
Wow.
So $350,000.
Yeah.
And that's not including, like, you know, like, I guess not including like all the fixtures, like the concreting, you know, the matting, you know, the painting, all that stuff. That's just equipment alone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, but in saying all that, it's not, never really looked at it from a business perspective. I've never looked at it and been like, okay, I need to make sure, like, I allocate these costs. It was all right. Like, looking around here, like 10 combos isn't looking at it from a business perspective. Like, you could have got away with 5, for example.
Yeah.
But it was always more like to have that X factor of what I want my gym to look like. I wanted it to be a space where, like, I can say I have 10 combos. And say allow, like, be like, oh wow, like, have that wow factor, have those 5 monoliths. Like, so I always intended to kind of have a space where it was like that.
And I think the way you operate, from what I've seen, is that, like, you even said it before, you set the standard and then you find a way to get to there.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you set a budget and you're like, okay, well, with this budget, I can buy this. It's more like, I want this, and I'm going to work to get to where I want to be. Yeah, which I really respect. That's awesome. Yeah, cool. And then, I mean, with this space now, is this like your dream gym?
Yeah, it is now my dream gym.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the spaces I sort of want to now replicate. Like, I want to be able to replicate it, something like over the next couple of years. You know, I have goals of actually setting something up like this elsewhere this year. Yeah. That's my goal at the moment. And, like, you know, I want to try to do that and, achieve it. So, so it's exciting. Like, I've had those mistakes, you know, I've done all the mistakes. I know exactly what I need to do for the next gym. Yeah. You know, it'd be easy, just like replicating it won't be too hard. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Obviously, it's going to come with more challenges of operating more than one place, but I'm willing to do that. So.
Yeah. And I think last year you mentioned something like 1 of 38.
1 of 32.
Oh, 1 of 32, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. 1 of 32. It's been my dream. I think it was like, my favorite number is 23, so I used the reciprocal of it. I was like, 32. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I did that. When did I say that? I said that when I was back in the park. It was back in the park about, like 2 years in.
Yep.
I was like, I'm going to have 32 of these gyms.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, yeah, my dream. And I was like, okay. And then visiting it this last year, I was like, obviously seeing the space happen, I was like, yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
One of 32. And I sort of set it as that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure that we get to that.
Yeah. And so like your dream's to have 32 of these gyms.
32 of these gyms around. So that'll be my dream.
Yeah.
Obviously setting the standards high.
Yeah.
You know, people will probably look at it, like listen to me like, yeah, like a little bit of doubt and whatnot. But again, like you've got to back yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to set the standards high and just work towards it.
But that was the same thing that people were saying or thinking like 10 years ago when you were saying that you wanted to open this gym and like, look where you are now.
Yeah.
Like, where the haters at, bro?
That's it.
No, that's awesome. And so with like this whole idea of, because from what I thought that, did you turn 32 last year?
I turned 32 last year.
I thought that it was...
I'm 33 now, so I turned, sorry, the year before. I keep forgetting. The whole COVID thing stuffed everything up.
I thought because you achieved your dream gym when you were 32, now you want like 32 gyms.
Yeah.
Like 32 of
I
those
was
gyms.
32 and I achieved my dream gym. Yeah, it makes a bit of sense.
So that sort of makes sense too.
Yeah, it does actually
maybe-
make sense. Maybe say that.
Yeah.
Maybe that was
Cut the last part out. No, awesome. And I think, like with your whole plans moving forward, obviously, like you want to expand. Are there any other things in mind that you are looking to do? Like, obviously, you're now running competitions. You're affiliated with what was it?
WRPF.
WRPF. That's right. What else do you have on your sort of list?
Obviously, we want to sort of run those competitions here, and we've done a really good job at doing so. Like, we've only ran 2 competitions, and then we obviously have the September one, which is going to be the invite only, which we're going to send invites very soon. In regards to that, I have the best lifters in Australia.
Yep.
Come down here and do that. I'd love to have one day have the best lifters in the world come to this event and do so. That'll be like surreal. I think that'll be really good for the powerlifting community in Australia. Obviously, want to have a good powerlifting space in the sense not only just the space itself, but it always work towards have quality coaching in here and be known for that. Also want to, like, you know, a lot of people obviously take away now the fact that we have a good CrossFit space as well.
Yep.
We do have that. We do have a good functional fitness space and some good coaches. I want to obviously build that up as well in the next couple of years. And be known for our coaching, whether it's like CrossFit, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's powerlifting, you know, and any type of strength conditioning, whether working with athletes or working with in rehab. Be known as a center that with good quality coaches helping their clients achieve their goals and being known for that. Like, for me, key has always been movement. I really enjoy seeing people move really well, and I've always been like a massive, a hater on in the sense that when I see coaches like coaching in a way where it's sort of detrimental to that person's like well-being,
right.
or like where they're not moving as well. Like,
Yeah,
I
right.
hate that. Like, I've always been passionate about the fact that I want to see people move really well. Like,
And help people move better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just seeing them just over time improve. And then I feel like in our industry, we do have a lot of cheerleaders. Like, there's nothing wrong with cheering people on. Being a coach, you need to be able to like really motivate your clients and cheer them on and make them realize how good they're progressing, which is very important to keep them. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people in the industry for the wrong reasons, and they're not in there to, you know, ensuring quality movement. And that's what I want Breakthrough to be known as. And then hopefully also one day get into like, as we get like sort of build that reputation, get into like online coaching and give another source of income for our coaches, and then move from there. And then, just to be able to sort of like, again, like the big thing is to have this facility as a shell for like a like-minded coaches to go in, whether, you know, it's not so much about, I don't want to have everyone on the same page in terms of like everyone teaching the same thing. But if someone can tell me why they're teaching that, okay, and they can give me a specific, like a lot of people, like I find a lot of the young coaches like coming up, I kind of have that mentality. I was one of them. I have that mentality where it's like, okay, I want to be that coach. Like they always like kind of like hating on the next coach and saying, oh, why is this person doing that? Or why is that person doing that? But if someone can come up to me and tell me, give me an honest reason why, and it makes sense from like a scientific or like from a movement perspective, then I'm like, okay, no worries.
Yes.
You know why at least. Whereas like a lot of people in the industry right now are just doing things, but they're doing it and they have no idea why they're doing it.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is like some coaches, they just sort of like see another coach do it or see another coach practice X, Y, Z, and then they sort of replicate that without really understanding why they do that in the first place. And so for me as a coach and as a personal trainer, like I always, whenever I see something interesting, I go, okay, this coach is doing whatever with their client. I like to understand like why. I want to try to figure out why are they doing that in the first place? How is it impacting them? And then go, okay, like that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I like this or I don't like this for whatever
It's
reason.
really important to do so. Like, it's like, like I said before, like, it's just like, that's the one thing that I want to sort of get breakthrough to be known as. Like, if I'm going to have 32 of these facilities, I don't want it to just be just for the sake of having 32 facilities. It's not about that. It's also, there's a holistic thing to it. It's like, I want to be known as having 32 facilities where people, train properly.
Yeah.
This is the place where you come and, you move well. Like,
Yeah.
my dream, like, I had a really serious injury when I was 18, like 18, 19, and then it led to a serious injury when I was 25. Right. And that took me out of training altogether. Like, I got into the gym and I got in there, and I remember putting like 100 kilos on the bar. First time ever squatting. And I went and squatted, and I like literally, like, bulging disc straight after that.
Really?
And then after, when I was 25, that obviously led to that. But if I was able to move well, and I think Australia's missing that. Like, you look at other countries, they've got gym.
Yeah.
They've got gym classes or whatnot during high school. We don't have that. So, like, my dream is to be able to have proper facility for people to get access to. Like, I love seeing kids come through here and do our classes, for example. Love seeing that because I know that that's going to have a massive impact on the person. That's going to have a massive impact on the person, and like they're probably going to miss what training's done for me is like changed my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I want that to be the case, and not for them to get injured and be like, okay, no, I can't do it.
Yeah. Come say hi, Pasha. So this is Pasha, everyone. Pasha, say hi.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you didn't interrupt. I told you to come over. It's right.
Come in here.
That's right.
Have a chat.
Yeah. This is Pasha. Follow him on Instagram. What's your Instagram, Pasha?
Pasha.pt.
There you go. All right, you can leave now. Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And the thing I want to move on to next, just to wrap everything up, is the values that you really uphold now, given everything that you sort of went through, all your experiences, your upbringing, making all these mistakes. What do you think are really core values to you now that you will hold on to? Yeah. I guess maybe right now, like what are the core values? Yeah.
Honestly, like, if you got to really, really, really care.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't care, if you aren't, that's one of the probably most important things. You got to really care about what you do. If you find that you basically don't love what you do, and there was times, like, I'll admit it, like, there were times where, like, I sort of fell off that, and I sort of didn't really care as much, whereas, like, I got demotivated because things weren't going my way. And then when I found myself caring about what I'm doing, naturally that brought that love back for me to kind of push on. And a lot of things did happen along the way where basically were outside of my control. It was all more mental health issues and things like that. And that sort of put me in a dark place. And the funny thing about it all, when looking back at it, is like I was able through training to kind of get past that. Caring is one, I guess. Being consistent, like having that drive and having the drive and being consistent is two different things. Like, it's kind of like, all right, you can be motivated for that split second.
Yeah.
Like, I can put some motivational video right now, like amped up and like getting ready to go.
Yeah.
And then 2 minutes later, and especially with all my mental health issues along the way, that could quickly disappear. You can quickly start thinking otherwise, and and obviously being your worst enemy. But I guess being consistent and having some sort of routine is like really, really important. And then also understanding that, last but not least, like, you got to kind of be very grateful, like being grateful in that, in gratitude. The moment. Yeah, just practicing gratitude, like being grateful, like, having a chat to you right now and being able to sort of tell my story. Yeah. Or like, being grateful, in the next minute or so, hanging out, with certain coaches or whatnot that you might not be able to. Like, last night I was like at dinner and I was like, okay, looking around, I'm like, I haven't been out with all these staff before. Yeah. And it's probably will be one of the last times I can hang out with them all together. Yeah. Because we've had, obviously, you go through your phases of different coaches, different staff members and whatnot. And if you don't practice gratitude and like in the essence, like, you don't really practice it, you just find yourself like kind of not really appreciating the moment and always wanting more. And never being grateful for the fact and that what you have at the moment. So they're kind of like the ones that really stood out for me.
No, I think gratitude is a big thing for me as well, especially when you're someone who really has those like big goals and those high expectations. Like, you're always working towards something, but what a lot of people tend to forget is that they don't really sit back and go, holy shit, like, I've been able to achieve so much and I'm so grateful to have been given the opportunity to be able to work to get to where I am now.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm so grateful that I get the opportunity to even be in this space talking to you right now. Like I could have easily just been at home sleeping,
Yeah,
on a Sunday morning
exactly.
at 9 a.m. And there's this one thing that I like to do with another one of my friends, Lisa. Her Instagram's @SwolMop, if you want to check her out and follow her. We do this thing where like we ask each other like, oh, what are 3 things that you're grateful for today? And so, yeah, what are 3 things you're grateful for today?
Today, honestly, like being able to get out of bed, for example, and knowing that I can fully function.
Yeah.
Having a beautiful family, like, I got up in the morning, saw my mum and dad, I'm very grateful for that. And then like, obviously like having this chat with you today and, coming into this facility and knowing that, having this space where I can actually like change people's lives. I'm very grateful for that.
And I think with the gym as well, like it's very different to personal training, where personal training, when you do like one-on-one, obviously like you have a direct impact on their lives and you can see that sort of change. But when you have a gym, you can you can increase that impact by so much because you've got all these people coming through now, and because they're able to use your facility, they're changing their lives through their training. And so, yeah, I think that's really awesome. That's honestly one of my goals as well, just increase my impact on people.
Yeah.
Ever since I started as a trainer, I was like, how do I do more? How do I impact more people's lives? How do I make things better for more people? And yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Cool. So you mentioned basically like things about your mental health and stuff over the years. Could you touch briefly on that?
So growing up, obviously I was a nerd. I was a nerd. Like, probably from, I think my first friend was in year 4. So I was pretty much, like I was just one of those kids. Like, it was just very
But was it because you were comfortable by being yourself, or you just couldn't make friends?
I think it was a bit of both,
Okay.
to tell you the truth. Like, obviously, like, I was comfortable with my sister, my brother growing up and stuff like that, and having cousins and whatnot. But at school, didn't make any friends. So up to year 4, I remember just coming to Australia. When I did come here, that was the first time. Simon Masri was my first friend, my first real mate.
Yeah.
And then pretty much just like, even growing there up until year 10, I only had a handful of mates. Like I had a handful, like, a couple. And I was into my books, I was into studying. Like, even my friends from school will probably tell you, if you actually had a chat with them, like, George was the last person you'd expect to own a gym. Like,
Wow,
I was like really into my sports and stuff like that. I touched on to that. But it was only until year 10 that I became a bit more social.
Yep.
And then remember I got my first haircut, a proper haircut, and I put contacts on, so I used to wear glasses before. And I walked into the...
Wait, do you wear contacts now?
Yeah, wear contacts
Oh, really?
now, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you have to wear glasses?
I have to wear glasses, yeah. I'm blind, like minus 9 degrees.
Oh,
both
wow.
eyes, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I walked into the playground, like went to the school. I was going there since year 4. So it's like, it goes from like primary to high school.
Yeah.
And one of the guys comes over from the grade above and goes, "You're new, come hang out with us." I'm like, "No, I've been here."
So all you did was put contacts on and get a haircut?
Yeah. It's like, "Okay, come hang out with us." And I'm like, "Oh, nah, I've been here forever." Like,
Yeah.
And then it was like, pretty much because of that, I found that I was a bit more confident.
Right.
That bit of confidence allowed me to kind of actually talk to more people and make more friends. And then I sort of got really lost in that. But what happened, because I didn't have a good base, I think, I just sort of suffered a lot of like anxiety that came with it. Like, I was very anxious. Like, I would get into a room in class, so just out of nowhere, I don't know how this happened, but I just sort of started like, I would hear voices of people talking about me, where like someone would be murmuring to their friend about something.
Yeah.
But I would automatically assume they're talking something about me,
Right.
like saying something like, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it became sort of like very, very, very evident. Like it became recurring. It was recurring in like everywhere, whether I was going to church, or or they was going in a group environment, anywhere. I just found myself very uncomfortable because I thought people were talking about me, but they weren't. Like, they were just generally like talking to their mate.
Yeah.
So I used to get in my head a lot. So that led to like, obviously me being really depressed. Like, I remember like, I spent most of my time in the toilets, for example.
Right.
I'd go out in class, get down to the toilets, spend a bit of time there, get myself together, get back up, and so forth.
Yeah.
So I did that for a bit, and then like, I went through a stint of depression during that time. Obviously having that anxiety.
This is during high school?
During high school, yeah. And then I found myself, obviously like back then with like, mental health, it wasn't as spoken about as it is now, which is awesome. People speak about it, more people are open about it and talk about it. Like, I only came out with my story, like, I think I told my parents, like, my whole family was like, literally October last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just relatively new.
Yeah.
So after that, I found myself, obviously with the whole social anxiety and being depressed, I just didn't want to live. Like, I had suicidal thoughts.
Right.
Tried to tried to the age of 16
Yeah.
to do so.
Wow.
And then sort of, I was more of a, I didn't do it because I was just too scared to do it, you know, more than anything else.
Yeah.
I think when people look at, like, you know, people that, you know, that commit suicide, like, as being cowards and whatnot, but they're not. They're just, like, literally, to do that, to end your life, it takes a lot of guts to do that, you know.
Yeah.
You're going to do it and you're going in with the intention of doing something. It's easy to harm someone else. It's not easy to harm yourself, you know. And those people that do so, there's a lot of things that drives them to do that, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that they're going through that a lot of people don't know about. So when I was 18, it just kept,
Sorry, while you're going through that phase, like, no one knew about it.
no one knew about it, no.
So you're just dealing...
being a Lebanese family, I think we never really spoke about it. Like, we never spoke about that sort of stuff. Like, you know, if you were anxious or whatever, it's like, whatnot. Like, it's not like anything important. Like, even when I speak to some Lebanese families now, they disregard anxiety and depression. It's nothing. Like, it's like, whatever, who cares? Nothing. It's not really a thing. So when I was 18, I obviously just had to go to uni. So going to uni, you had to catch I had to catch public transport. I still didn't have a car.
Yeah.
So I'd get on the bus and I'd drip in sweat.
Because you were just so anxious.
So anxious, yeah.
Wow.
And then the same thing would happen on the train. Like, it took me a while to get over it. Like, it took me a while to get over that stuff. And I'm going from, I was going to jump on the train at Merrylands, get off at Granville, get back on, get off at Auburn, get back off, get back on, get onto Lidcombe, and so forth. Start at 7, get there at 9.
Wow.
So it took me a long time just to keep getting. I had to keep getting off. Like, obviously the social anxiety was, like, huge. But then I was able to, obviously, I think it took one. You know, my mum was like, had a massive impact on me. She came one time with me to uni, and then having her there sort of just, like, made me feel at peace. And that sort of, that really, like, good experience, and I just sort of let go of it. But it was only up until, like, this is going to sound a bit wacky and stuff like that. Like,
That's right.
Just mention it. But this actually led to my obsession over breakthrough. So I think that's very important to share. So, I started. At 21, I went out with one girl.
Yeah.
So was going out with her for like 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And she had the obsession with the number 72. So I was like, okay, all right. I was like, you know, who cares? It's just a number. She goes, I see it everywhere. I'm like, all right, no worries. It's just a number. I thought she was an idiot. I was like, well, don't worry about it. Why not? She was my first girlfriend, so I really fell for her. Like, I literally just fell head over heels for her. It's young love. Pretty much then I started getting a bit of anxiety because she was starting to talk to her ex-boyfriend at the time. Right. So as she was talking to her ex-boyfriend, they didn't end things on bad terms. They ended things because his mum didn't like her. So they would still have contact and whatnot. And, like, you know, and for me that was like, how could you do that? Like, I'm your boyfriend, how could you? So I started using numbers to kind of tell me that things are fine. Like, that things are fine. So I'd use the numbers 72 and 27. So there's a number, 72. And then there'll be 27 will be reciprocal of 72. So one will be yes, the other will be no. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'll be say in the car, you see number plates everywhere. Yep. Yeah. So I'll be driving around with my mates and whatnot, and then, like, I'll be looking for these numbers. I'll be like, okay, 72 says yes, 27 means no. Wow. And then 14 and 41. That was the next thing with her. Then with the next girl, I was just talking getting to know girls and whatnot. Yep. With each of the girls that got to know, and 2 numbers would come up to the 61, 16, or, like, you know, 78 and 87. Yeah, wow. So that was all happening as I was about to start breakthrough. Yep. And one time, I was at Fitness First. I pulled out the calendar, put the calendar to the
I remember you telling this. This story is whack, man. This story is crazy.
I don't know, I was subconsciously doing this, you know? So I kind of, like, went and circled the day that I literally started dating my ex-girlfriend. Went over. 72 days later, we had our first fight. 27 days later, we broke up. We didn't talk for 14 days. Then 41 days, we stayed, like, we made up on that day, 14th day, and we stayed together for 41 days. Same thing would happen to every single girl. I remember calling my best mate at the time, Anthony Gregg, and I'm like, Anthony, we need to go to doctors. I need to go see a doctor in regards to that. So what generally happened was, like, okay, we went there. I went to the doctors. They pretty much put me on to psychiatrist. Psychiatrist said I had OCD with numbers, long story short. But as he was doing that, so as he was diagnosing me, he was having cake. I'm like, I'm pouring my heart out. This guy at Grove Street, Parramatta, I don't want to mention his name, but he's having cake as he's literally diagnosing me. He just wrote me a script. He have some drugs. Lexapro was what I had to take. Yeah. So I went home, went and got the Lexapro medication, and then basically decided, okay, I'm gonna start taking it. Yeah. 2 days in, one of my clients at the time, he was he was basically, he noticed my change in mood. He
Right.
goes to me, what's wrong? I told him I don't know if it was the medication or it was the fact that I was just depressed, the fact that knowing that, this thing was like really stuffing me up. Because like the numbers thing, like I couldn't go anywhere without like looking, and it was tiring, like looking for those numbers, like, and they'll pop into my face. Like I'd be at a set of lights and like 4 cars in front of me would be 21. I'm like, fuck, like, maybe like why? What are the chances of having 4 cars in a row with the same
So
thing?
it would constantly like, without you even looking for it, or were you actively?
Without even looking for it.
Yeah,
And it got
right.
to the stage as well, like, one of my mates, like, Johnny Dang would back me up on this. Like, he pretty much, like, at Fitness First, I picked football scores.
Yeah.
I picked football scores and literally, like, the numbers, like, how many points this team's going to win by. He won 10 grand. I remember, like, the time when he won 10 grand, he
Really?
came over and gave me $100 to say thank you.
Wow.
And then, it was like freaky at the time. But my mate, my client at the time said to me, you know what, George, why don't you try doing it without it? It's going to change your mood. Don't do it. Like, I've had experiences with my friends. Like, they've taken it.
Like without the
Change it.
meds.
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah.
So I was like, okay, no worries. And then what I noticed then, I'd shifted my obsession for numbers to my business. And I
Right.
really, like, people would tell you, like, my whole life revolves around breakthrough. It does. Like, my whole life does revolve around breakthrough.
Yeah.
Everything I talk about when I'm out, like, if you want to get me talking, talk about training or talk about breakthrough in general, and I'll start talking.
Yeah.
So that generally happened, and that kept me sort of, like, not seeing those numbers for that time, but I didn't realize the long-term effect of, like, suppressing those things, suppressing those feelings. And then obviously being obsessed over this, it came, although it wasn't, I thought it was healthy by helping a lot of people and stuff like that, it was unhealthy in a way.
Okay.
So along the way, what basically happened was, like, then the suicidal thoughts came up
Right.
again. So as things went on, all those difficult situations I spoke about in the past in regards to all those things, like, every little hurdle that I'll have, I found myself, like, constantly dwelling on suicidal thoughts
Right.
over and over and over again.
Yeah. So that started to come back when you were training people again.
And I was training people, and just every setback that I had, like if I had a setback, whether like this gym, for example,
Right.
there was a lot of setbacks. And then I found, like, just this, like, it was, honestly, it was a lot of it was not being grateful for the things that we have in the moment. And then, like, there was a couple of times, like, there's like a big moment was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, business was at its worst. Obviously we didn't have the space, like this facility itself. Like, I had just made a lot of mistakes, and I was like, okay, shit, like, I've got to, like, I spoke to my coach at the time. I just started off with him, and like, it was like 6 months into it. I'm like, I think I have to sell the business. And then I spoke to one of my friends. I'm like, I'm gonna have to sell the business.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to sell it.
Yeah.
And that was, like, really hard on me. Like, that was like 7 years of my life, and I'm like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I failed.
Yeah.
And for me, like, failing is, like, obviously it's a big thing. Like, I've always grown up, like, having those high expectations and whatnot. And I remember, like, with my ex, I was like, she was sitting in one room, in the bedroom, sleeping while I was in the other room, and I was ready. That's it. It was done.
Wow.
I was like, that's it. It's gonna.
So you're ready to sell?
I was ready to sell, and I was ready. I had spoken to my mate in the morning. We're ready to sell, but at that time I was ready. That's it. That was the end of my life. I was like, okay, stop there.
Yep.
That's it. I'm not gonna live anymore. And that's it. I was ready to take my own life. It's like, I'm not gonna go into detail about it, but that was it. And the sad thing about it, when you come to think about it, is that no one really knew.
Yeah.
Like, family had no idea. My ex had no idea.
So even your partner that you were living with at that time had no idea?
No idea.
Wow.
And that's one of those things. And even when I spoke to my mum about it, like, when I up to my mum about it in October, she's like, she knew then and there. She's like, I always knew you were fighting something, but we didn't really, like, you were fighting on your own, but we didn't really know. Like, you just didn't really know. And that was one thing, like, I realized. And then, like, the turning point was then. I was like, and, like, I'm thankful for the fact of certain people that I had in my life. Like, having Cameron in my life as well during that time was, like, really beneficial in the sense.
Cameron,
of,
your coach, right? Yep.
It was, like, very beneficial in the sense he showed, like, he was able to allow me to kind of, like, give me that confidence. That's why it's really important. That's why our jobs are so important. Like, when we give confidence to our clients, if we give them that bit of confidence and make them feel that self-worth, for me, it was through lifting, going up that little bit extra every single time. I used to post videos on Instagram for my own self. Like, I wasn't posting it out for anyone, just so I could see a record. Like, I'd sit there at night and just, like, look at my videos for the next morning so I can know exactly what to do differently and whatnot.
Yep.
But seeing all that, like, those little little small changes along the way, was like,
small wins.
Yeah, small wins. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's enough for me to kind of push on.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that was one of the turning points, but the biggest turning point for me, and that was like April this year, last year, and I was able to kind of like realize there and then, and that is funny that this space came about after I kind of had that switch, and I was able to realize, and that was like after Breakthrough Battlegrounds was like a very dark moment for me.
Right.
And I realized that then and there, like even then, like, people would not have expected that, you know, anything was going on.
Yeah.
And then I was able to kind of realize then and then I was in control of my own life. And the whole time I felt trapped. I felt trapped in the sense that I couldn't escape things. I couldn't make myself happy or couldn't do any of that stuff. But I kind of came to the realization that I can actually do all that stuff and do more. And that was through like really sitting down and understanding things. And like one of the things that really clicked as well was with when I used to speak, like during lockdown, would come in here and train. I'd come in and train, and then like Ishmael would come in and train Alex, you know, doing some rehab stuff for Alex, God is strong. And I was speaking to him and really understanding it from another perspective as well, and how it feels to kind of be in that sort of space and to understand like your self-worth and understand that, you know, taking your own life is like, or doing anything that's stupid in that sense. It only sort of, it's going to impact those people, but their lives are going to go on. Whereas like with mine, it's going to end there and then. So that impact I'm going to have on people, or have on myself, it's just going to end.
Yeah.
So it's not going to lead to anything else. Like everyone would, the reality of it, people are just going to move on. Like, you know, life goes on. But, you know, having those thoughts and doing those things and thinking like that in that mindset, so it's detrimental for you, and it's not going to have a positive experience or positive impact on other people. And I'm glad that I was able to reach out and say, okay, all right, I'm going to go see a psychologist.
Yeah.
And go see that. And like, I'm regularly seeing a psychologist now, and then
It's great. Yeah.
doing all those things, and like even having like obviously chats with positive people. It was a massive change in my life, you know. Even though I had that massive change in my life, I was able to kind of then be like, okay, nah, it's good. I need to see the positives in everything that I'm doing. I need to make sure that I think of me and me first, and I kind of put myself in situations where, like, you know, I'm being the best version of myself so that I can have an impact on others. So yeah, that was my story in a nutshell.
That's awesome,
and like
man.
going back to it, like I think a lot of it wouldn't have been possible without having this space, you know.
Yeah.
Because this space was allowed me to actually meet those people.
Yep.
Or having this space as well as giving me that sort of fulfillment in the sense that when you change people's lives, it's like gives you that sort of meaning to it. So
Yeah. No, that's a crazy story, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is all like recent developments as well, right?
yeah, so like I'm like, you know, looking back at it, like since April, I'm a totally different person. Like I know that, like the way my outlook on life is different, the way I see things, the way I talk to people. Like I'm more engaged as compared to before.
Yeah.
Whereas before I'd be talking to someone and I'm like, okay, thinking about like 10 different things at once.
Right.
So I wasn't really present. Now I'm finding myself more present. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, but then there's always that need for constant development. Like you need to, I think like everyone needs to kind of sit down for a bit and in their thoughts and be like, okay, what can I do to actually improve myself?
Yeah.
It's like training, I guess. Like, you know, you go there and you're trying to increase that weight weekly, or like, you know, or try to get like a better time in your workouts and
Yeah.
whatnot.
And I think that's what I find in training as well, where like it gives me the sensation or that feeling of like I'm doing better every single session. Like I'm being a better version of myself every single session, and that just keeps me going. Like it's just that's what I think. That's why I think everyone should train, not just because it helps you get, you know, physically healthier or whatever, but just psychologically. Like it's a way for you just to see constant improvement in yourself.
That's it.
And so like there are other things that you can sort of go like in with your career and stuff where you can keep improving your career, but with training it's easy in a sense where each week like you just do another rep or you just do another like an extra 1 kilo.
Even if it looks better.
Yeah,
like you might do the
exactly.
same weight, but it looks 10 times better.
Yeah.
Or even a little bit better. Like, you know, it's a win.
That sense of achievement and sense of fulfillment, and I think that carries on to other parts of your life too, where like if you can apply that same concept of just doing just a bit better every single week, apply it to career, apply it to your education, you're going to be constantly becoming the best version of yourself every single week.
Yeah, you have to. And it's funny, like most of the successful people will preach, get up and go to the gym. Like, make it as part of your routine. You have to go train.
Yeah,
you know, like you see a lot of people doing that, and I think that's very important. Like it does have a major impact on you. And I find a lot of people that do, like, you know, looking at it, like we've had a lot of like really anxious. Like I've had a lot of people come forward and talk to me about obviously their history of mental health and whatnot, and seeing that journey in people's lives and seeing them get more confident in their own selves and like changing their whole life because of training.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's so good to see.
It's
like
insane.
it's insane. Like it's training. Like they've been going to like psychologists. They've they've had like, you know,
medication.
they've had all that stuff, but
Yeah.
the thing that changed them, like I know people that honestly were like drug addicts or like, you know, lived a lifestyle like, you know, around the wrong people, for example,
Yeah.
or whatever it was,
Yeah.
you know, they come to this environment and they'll send me messages at the end of the year and they'll be like, every New Year's Eve, I'll couple like, you know, at least a couple of messages, or 3-4 messages from people saying, thank you so much for changing my life. Having this facility has allowed me blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
to do it. And it's like, and that's all because of just training, like,
Yeah.
which we take for granted. Like it is, we do take it for granted.
That's
And a
it,
lot of people
yeah.
out there right now, like, that aren't doing it, like, should start some sort of routine. Like, don't think of it, you know, there's the physical benefits of it, but at the same time, like, hey, get out there and like do it and watch your whole life change around. Just a bit of routine.
Yeah.
Having that bit of routine, like that physical sort of exertion helps.
Yeah.
It goes a long way.
I think the thing for me personally that sets this facility apart from other facilities that I've been to isn't just the equipment, but the people.
Yeah.
Like, I think the people make this breakthrough.
Yeah, that's true.
And when I was overseas for the past 4 weeks. I got back last Saturday. Like, the thing I missed about training the most was actually just being around people, because I felt like that brought my mood up so much, and like training wouldn't be the same without the people who are here.
No, at all.
Yeah.
Like every person here has has an impact, like some sort of impact. Like, you know, like it's not the facility itself. It's not me, like myself or anything like that. It's literally like the people in here. And I'm blessed to actually have some really good people here.
Yeah.
I've been lucky, you know, like since the very start. When I look back at all the photos from all, you know, from the parks all the way through, I've been honestly genuinely blessed with a lot of good people. And like,
Yeah.
I look at it and I was like, you know, when I see these guys out or whatnot, even if they don't come here anymore, I'm like, I'm so grateful for the fact that these guys were able to train.
And sort of
know,
like trust in you to train as well.
Yeah, and then like they didn't realize the impact that they had on the other people. Like, like everyone that's ever been a member, like honestly should be, like, really like should take some sort of credit, or even people like even my business partners, ex-business partners, or like my ex, or anyone in general.
Yeah.
You know, I look at it and I see it. They should like hold their head up high, because you know what, the impact that they've had in that short term to when I have 32 breakthroughs is because of them.
Yeah.
And it's like they've had that impact, and they were able to make this place what it is, and I'm like I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's awesome, man. I wanted to touch on one last thing. I just wanted to mention something in terms of like the whole mental health thing.
Yeah.
I think with a lot of trainers, and I've experienced this myself, where like you're constantly putting other people first, that you end up, I guess, like it takes up, obviously with work, it takes up your time, it takes up your energy and stuff, which is fine. Like that's what work is. But I think a lot of people don't realize is as a personal trainer, you're constantly putting other people first. Like when it's their time, it's not your time.
Yeah.
And like if you try to be a bit more self-centered, it's like, oh, I'm being selfish right now because like I'm meant to be focusing on my clients. And I've gone through spouts where it's just been like, fuck, like I just want someone to care about me the way I care about my clients. And I don't know if you experience the same, but like sometimes it just gets to the point where I'm just like, man, this shit's tiring. Like
tiring.
I just want to break for a bit. And like, I mean, I don't know if you can relate or...
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate. And people tell me all the time, first thing when they ask me to be a PT, everyone's like, okay, I want to be a PT, I want to be a coach. I'm like, all right, why do you want to be a coach for? What do you want to be a PT for? They're like, I just want to, you know, I want to train, I want to own a gym like you. Or I want to, something like that. And I'm like, nah, don't even get into it. Trust me, don't get into it. You know, it's not worth it. The reason I say that is not to deter people from doing that, but when someone comes up to me and says, I genuinely care about making people better, I'm like, get in there. I want you in there ASAP. You know what? You want a job? I'll help you. Honestly, get that job in here. Like, and that's like really, really important. Like we care so much about our clients. We do. Like that's why we come here. That's why we do what we do. Man, I was like, I still remember like there were so many shit days. I would come in here, I'd put a smile on my face, and like no one would ever know what's going on. Whether it was like financial hardship, or there was like, you know, mental health hardship, or whatever it was. You know? And that's like, because we do have that sense of like, and I think it develops more and more and more and more that we do it. But we got to make sure that we don't burn ourselves out. We put ourselves first. Like, you know, for me, a non-negotiable, it's 11 a.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I've got to train. I don't care what's going on. I don't care if I have anything, a wedding, or any of that stuff now. Like whether it is like just being sort of like very stringent on the fact that 11 a.m. is the time for you, because the reason why you were able to change everyone's lives is because for your passion for your training. And don't get me wrong, like at that time when I come to train at 11 o'clock, I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. Like, sometimes you don't want to lift, you don't want to do any of that stuff. You don't want to like, you know, I'm like, why can't I just, you know, like do something. But then you realize you've got to do it. It's the reason what got you into doing what you do. It's who you are as a person.
Yeah.
If you lose that, and I lost that along the way. There was times from 20, when obviously like when I got to the gym when I was 18 to like, you know, 23 when I started my business, I was always fit. As soon as I started my business at 23, I realized that I started giving up a lot of my time and my training time. I would go without training. Yeah. At the time I was 20, you know, like at 24, whatnot, I literally was like, I found myself after that year that I wasn't really looking the part. And because I wasn't looking the part or didn't feel the part, I wasn't able to train people properly. Yeah. And you finally lose that sort of like that drive in that sense. And then I did it again. So I got really fit, got myself in order, but then again I fell off the bandwagon because again I was like prioritizing my business first. And then what I realized was like it's like quite detrimental for in the long term. And then when I had this, the funny part about it, it's like I laugh about it all the time now. When I opened this gym at 27, for the 5 years I was here, people would always come in and they were like, I'm here to speak to the owner. And I had like this big guy, Fred, like he's massive. He looked really good. He took care of himself really, really well. He lived and breathed it. And you know, at this when it came to training, and they'd come in and like they'd walk in, or like another PT will be at the front, or anyone else will be at the front, and they're like, hey, we're here to speak to the owner, and then they'll look at that person, and then that person will be like, that's him, and they'll look at me and they'll look down on my stomach, and it's like, oh shit, you know, I'm gonna lose, like I have to like get back in shape, and like you realize like, because at that time I wasn't prioritizing myself, I wasn't putting myself first, and I think it's really important to do so. You've got to put yourself first. In anything, whether like training, relationships, or whatever it is, like even business, you got to do that because if you let yourself go, anyway, you know that's it. It's the end of it. It's like end of what you're trying to do.
I think that's something that I'm working on myself as well. Like I've had conversations with you about this, like last week or even this week. I think I had a conversation with you where I'm trying to work on myself and putting myself first. When I first started working as a PT, when I think I was 18, so 3 years ago, I like my own training was crammed in. Like I was just like cramming in my sessions. I was just like trying to fit in my training in between clients and stuff because I was just so focused on growing my PT business and getting as many clients as I could that like my own training was sacrificed. And it came to a point where I was like, shit, like I actually can't train, or like I actually can't commit to training anymore because I'm so busy with my clients, or like there's so many other things on my mind that I want to do, and that took an impact on my training, and that actually impacted my own self-confidence, impacted my my mental health and my mental well-being. And so a big thing that changed I won't say it changed my life, but just changed the way I operate is I now set like 4-hour blocks for my training, and I just say like this is my time. Like there's no it's not negotiable.
No, you gotta have the non-negotiables. Like I have a few non-negotiables like for my day, on a daily basis, and you got to like if you want to succeed in whatever you do, you've got to have non-negotiables. I think absolutely. I think I watched a video about Kobe Bryant. And he had non-negotiables. Like he would set a plan for his training for the whole like off season. And he would get into it and he's like, oh, I'm going to have to change it a little bit. Like, no. I'm not changing it. That's right. That's what it's going to be. 100%. It is what it is. Sign that contract, you got to do it. Done. And it's like, it's important. Like, I think you got to have like at least like, you know, 3 non-negotiables a day that you got to do.
All right. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you opening up about that whole mental health thing. Like it definitely isn't easy to open up about that. And, but I think it's really important for people to see that despite being, from what I can see from the outside, such like a happy individual, someone who's just, you know, confident and, you know, have such a great facility to actually have gone through all these things as well. You know, it's normal for people to go through these things. And like, I think it's also very important to reach out, whether it's to a psychologist or just talk to friends, talk to family, someone that you trust about these sorts of things. And at the end of the day, like for the most part, your friends just want the best for you. And I think that's what a lot of people need to keep in mind. So, is there anything else that you want to mention to wrap it up, or?
Make sure you come. If you haven't been to this facility before, make sure you come down and have a look at it. Again, like I said before, it's just yeah, just like touching on the mental health thing, it's just like I just want people to realize, you're going to go through, so many adversities, whether it's if you fighting you or you fighting, things like, not being able to get things your way, but you can always sort of strive to be able to get what you want. And it's just a matter of just like persevering.
And it brings it back to those values of like consistency, routine, and just for me, like my values in terms of like in order to achieve your goals is just consistency and just hard work, man.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Hard work. That's it. You got to make sure you put it in.
Yeah.
So, no, thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Thanks for being on. Hopefully you guys enjoy this podcast. If you would like to follow George on Instagram, what's your Instagram, George?
I think it's George Kafrouni 23.
Is it 23?
Yeah, 23, yeah.
There you go. So at George Kafrouni 23. You can also follow Breakthrough Fitness on Instagram. Breakthrough Fitness _.
Underscore, that's it.
Yeah, Breakthrough Fitness _. I'm on Instagram as well, kelvintran.fitness, and of course follow dailyhustle.apparel on Instagram. Please leave a comment, give us any feedback, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's it. Done.
Awesome.